The blade pressed against Lord Aldrich's throat drew a single drop of blood. "You have 3 days," the messenger said, his eyes flashing amber in the torchlight. "The Lycan King demands tribute, or your lands burn." Elara watched from behind the stone pillar, her heart hammering. She'd learned long ago to make herself invisible, a skill perfected through years of being the disappointment, the plain daughter, the one her father wished had never been born. "Tell your king," her father gasped, his face purple with rage and fear, "that House Thornwood will not fall. I have something more valuable than gold." The messenger released him, curious. "Speak." "My daughter, the most beautiful maiden in 5 kingdoms. She will be his bride." Elara's stomach twisted. He meant Seraphina, of course. Golden-haired, sapphire-eyed Seraphina, whose beauty had been sung about since her 15th year. Their father's pride. His hope. His everything. The messenger's amber eyes swept the great hall, passing over Elara without seeing her, before landing on the portrait above the mantel. Seraphina, immortalized in oils and vanity. 3 days, he repeated. Present her at the border stones. If the king finds her acceptable, your lands are spared. He paused at the doorway. If he doesn't, well, we'll take what we came for anyway. When the heavy doors slammed shut, Elara finally exhaled. She turned to slip back to her chambers, the small room in the east tower that everyone forgot about, but her father's voice stopped her cold. Girl, fetch your sister. Tell her to prepare herself." Elara nodded, keeping her eyes down. "Yes, father. And have the seamstresses attend to her. She must look perfect." He poured wine with shaking hands. Everything depends on Seraphina now. As always, Elara thought bitterly. Everything always depended on Seraphina. She found her sister in the solar, surrounded by ladies-in-waiting who laughed at her every word. Seraphina's beauty was undeniable, like sunlight made flesh, their mother used to say before she died. Before their father's love curdled into obsession with preserving his legacy through his perfect daughter. "Elara," Seraphina's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Skulking again. Really, sister, you'll develop a hunch." The ladies tittered. Elara ignored them, delivering her father's message with mechanical precision. Seraphina's face transformed from mockery to shock to fury in seconds. "The Lycan King. That beast. Father cannot mean." "He does. 3 days." For the first time in years, Elara saw fear crack through her sister's perfect facade. Good, she thought, then immediately felt ashamed. They were still sisters, even if Seraphina had never treated her as one. The next 3 days passed in chaos. Seamstresses worked day and night. The castle buzzed with preparations. Seraphina was bathed in milk and honey, her hair braided with gold thread, her gown a masterpiece of silk and jewels that cost more than most families earned in a lifetime. Elara helped where she could, unseen and unnoticed. She always helped. On the morning of the 3rd day, the household traveled to the border stones, ancient markers that separated human lands from Lycan territory. Mist clung to the ground like ghostly fingers. The air smelled of pine and something wild, something dangerous. Elara rode in the supply cart, hidden under cloaks. No one had thought to prepare a horse for her. No one ever did. The Lycan King arrived as the sun reached its peak. Kael Blood Moon rode a black destrier that snorted smoke. His warriors flanked him, massive men whose eyes glowed amber, whose presence radiated barely contained violence. But Kael himself, Elara's breath caught. He was beautiful in a terrible way. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell to his collar and eyes like molten gold. Power rolled off him in waves. This was no mere man. This was an apex predator wearing a crown. "Lord Aldrich." His voice was deep, controlled. "I'm told you have a bride for me." Her father practically threw Seraphina forward. "My daughter, your majesty. The jewel of House Thornwood." Seraphina curtsied perfectly, her golden hair catching the light. She was radiant, breathtaking, everything a king could want. Kael studied her in silence. The seconds stretched. Then his eyes moved past Seraphina, scanning the assembled household with predatory focus. They landed on Elara. She froze, half hidden behind the cart. His gaze pinned her like a butterfly to board. Something flickered in those golden eyes. Recognition? Impossible. They'd never met. Who is that? Kael asked, still looking at Elara. Her father barely glanced back. No one, Your Majesty. A servant. I'm not a fool, Lord Aldrich. She has your eyes. Your blood. Kael dismounted in one fluid motion, walking past Seraphina without a second glance. Who is she? The words seemed dragged from her father's throat. My other daughter. Elara. Seraphina's face went white with fury. The assembled nobles gasped. Kael stopped 3 paces from Elara. Up close, he was even more imposing, easily a head taller, radiating heat and power. But his eyes... they weren't cruel. They were searching. Look at me, he commanded softly. Elara raised her chin, meeting his gaze with the courage born of having nothing left to lose. Let him see the rejected daughter. Let him see the disappointment. Something in his expression shifted. A muscle in his jaw tightened. Then Kael Bloodmoon, the most powerful Lycan King in 3 centuries, turned to her father and spoke words that shattered Elara's world. I'll take this one. Silence crashed over the border stones like a physical weight. Then chaos erupted. Your Majesty, surely you jest. Her father's voice cracked with panic. Seraphina is the beauty, the accomplished one. Did I stutter? Kael's voice dropped to a growl that made several nobles step back. I choose Elara. Seraphina's shriek could have shattered glass. That mongrel. That nothing. I am the prize here. I am the one you should want. Elara stood paralyzed, her mind reeling. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She was the one people forgot existed, the shadow in the corner, the mistake. Kings didn't choose girls like her. Father, do something. Seraphina grabbed Lord Aldrich's arm. Her perfect face twisted with ugly rage. You promised I would be queen. You promised. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Her father's diplomatic mask was cracking, revealing desperation beneath. Elara is untrained in courtly matters. She has no accomplishments, no. She has a tongue, doesn't she? Kael interrupted. Let her speak for herself. Those golden eyes fixed on Elara again. Do you accept this arrangement? Every eye turned to her. Seraphina's hateful glare. Her father's barely concealed disgust. The noble's morbid curiosity. And Kael, the Lycan King who'd somehow seen her when no one else ever had. I. Elara's voice emerged as a whisper. She cleared her throat, forced strength into it. Why me? A ghost of a smile touched Kael's lips. Answer my question first. Do you accept? What choice did she have? If she refused, her father's lands would burn. Thousands would die. And she'd return to being invisible, forgotten, slowly suffocating in a house that had never wanted her. At least with the Lycan King, she'd be seen. Yes, Elara said. I accept. Seraphina lunged at her, hands curved into claws, but Kael moved faster than should be possible. He caught Seraphina's wrist mid-strike, his grip iron. Touch her again, he said quietly, and I'll forget you're under your father's protection. He released Seraphina, who stumbled back, tears of fury streaming down her perfect face. This isn't over, Elara. You'll pay for this. You've stolen my life. I didn't steal anything, Elara found herself saying, surprising herself with her own boldness. I never wanted this. But you'll take it anyway, won't you? You'll take what's mine. Seraphina's voice rose to hysteria. Father, you can't allow this. I'm your daughter. Your real daughter. The words hit Elara like physical blows, but they weren't new. She'd heard variations her entire life. She'd learned to build armor around her heart. Lord Aldrich looked between his daughters, political calculation warring with preference on his face. Finally pragmatism won. The arrangement is acceptable, Your Majesty. Elara will go with you. Just like that. 20 years of invisibility. And suddenly she was being sold to a stranger. We leave within the hour, Kael announced. She may bring personal belongings. Nothing more. I need no time, Elara said. I have nothing worth bringing. Something flickered in Kael's eyes, anger, pity. Before she could identify it, he turned to his warriors. Prepare the horses. We return to Shadowmoor before nightfall. The next hour blurred. Elara was given a rough traveling cloak and a mare that seemed too fine for someone like her. No one from her household came to say goodbye. Even the servants who'd known her since childhood avoided her eyes, as if her sudden importance had made her dangerous. Only Seraphina appeared as Elara mounted her horse. Her sister's beautiful face was blotchy from crying, but her eyes burned with something darker than grief. He'll tire of you, Seraphina hissed, keeping her voice low. Whatever spell you've cast, whatever trick you've played, it won't last. You're nothing, Elara. You've always been nothing. And when he realizes that, when he throws you aside, you'll have nowhere to return to. Father will never forgive you for this humiliation. Then I suppose, Elara said, surprised by her own calm, I'd better make sure I'm worth keeping. She'd meant it as defiance, but Seraphina's eyes widened as if Elara had confirmed her worst fears. Before her sister could respond, Kael's destrier moved between them, cutting off the conversation. It's time, he said. Elara took one last look at the only home she'd ever known. The castle where she'd been invisible. The family that had never loved her. The life that had always been too small. I'm ready. The journey into Lycan territory was nothing like Elara expected. The warriors who'd seemed so menacing at the border treated her with careful respect. They called her my lady, and ensured she had water and food. None of them spoke much, but their silence felt protective rather than hostile. Kael rode ahead, his attention seemingly on the forest path, but Elara caught him glancing back at her more than once. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, they entered a valley that took Elara's breath away. Shadowmoor wasn't the dark fortress she'd imagined. It was a sprawling complex of stone and timber that seemed to grow from the mountain itself. Waterfalls cascaded down cliffs, feeding a river that sparkled like silver. Gardens terraced the slopes, wild and beautiful, nothing like the manicured perfection of her father's estate. Welcome home, Kael said, appearing beside her horse so suddenly she startled. Home! The word felt foreign on her tongue. For now. Until you decide otherwise. He helped her dismount, his hands strong and warm on her waist. You're not a prisoner here, Elara. You chose to come. You can choose to leave. But the alliance was never about a hostage bride. His golden eyes held hers. Come. We have much to discuss. He led her through courtyards filled with Lycans in various forms. Some human, some wolf, some somewhere between. They all stopped to stare at Elara, their expressions curious rather than hostile. Children peeked from doorways. An old woman smiled and nodded. Kael's private chambers were at the top of the central keep, a suite of rooms that combined rustic elegance with unexpected comfort. A fire crackled in the hearth. The windows overlooked the valley, now painted in sunset colors. Rest, Kael said. Tomorrow you'll meet the court. Tonight recover from your journey. Wait. Elara caught his arm before he could leave, then immediately released it, shocked by her own boldness. You promised to tell me why you chose me. I need to understand. Kael studied her for a long moment. Then he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him, could see the flecks of amber in his golden eyes. Because, he said softly, you're the only one who didn't look at me like I was a monster to be conquered or a prize to be won. You looked at me like I was simply a man. Before Elara could process that, before she could ask what he meant, a howl shattered the night, long, mournful, and unmistakably a warning. Kael's entire body tensed. His eyes flashed brighter, more wolf than man. Stay here, he commanded. Lock the door. Let no one in. What's happening? He paused at the threshold, his expression grim. War, Elara. Your father has just declared war on Shadowmoor. Then he was gone, leaving Elara alone in a strange castle, in a strange land, with the sounds of battle preparations rising from below. Elara dove sideways, pure instinct driving her body. The woman's claws slashed through empty air where Elara's throat had been a heartbeat before. Stop running, the woman laughed, stalking forward. Your sister promised I could take my time with you. Behind them, Kael and the Grey Wolf fought viciously, but he couldn't break away without leaving himself vulnerable. Mira was chanting something, her hands glowing with protective wards, but the woman batted them aside like cobwebs. Elara's back hit the wall. No escape. The woman's grin widened, showing too many teeth. Then something inside Elara snapped. Not broke but opened. Like a door she'd never known existed suddenly swinging wide. Power flooded through her veins, silver white and searingly cold. It poured from her palms in a blinding wave, catching the woman mid-lunge. The attacker's scream was cut short as ice engulfed her, spreading from her feet to her chest in seconds. She froze mid-stride, eyes wide with shock, mouth open in a silent cry. Silence fell. Elara stared at her hands, at the frost patterns dancing across her skin, at the impossible thing she'd just done. Impossible, Mira breathed. You're human. Humans can't wield elemental magic. The Grey Wolf, seeing its companion frozen, broke away from Kael and dove through the broken window. Kael shifted back to human form, his naked body covered in healing wounds. He stared at Elara with something between awe and concern. What are you? He asked softly. I don't know, Elara whispered, watching the ice fade from her hands. I didn't know I could. Alarms still blared outside. Shouts and howls echoed through the castle. We need to move, Mira said, throwing a robe at Kael. Whatever just happened, the Shadow Pack will sense it. Every Lycan within a mile felt that power surge. They'll come for her in force. Then we make our stand, Kael said, tying the robe with swift efficiency. Elara, can you do that again? I don't know. I don't even know how I did it the first time. Then we learn. Quickly. Kael took her hand, the same spark stronger now, and pulled her toward the door. Mira, gather the inner circle. Elara needs protection while we figure out what's happening to her. They ran through corridors filled with warriors rushing to defensive positions. Lycans in various stages of shift nodded to Kael as they passed, their respect evident even in crisis. But their eyes lingered on Elara with new curiosity, new wariness. The safe room Mira had mentioned was a circular chamber deep in the castle's heart, its walls carved with ancient symbols that glowed faintly. 6 people were already there, warriors and advisors who looked up sharply as they entered. Your Majesty, a grizzled man said. The northern breach is contained, but they've pulled back rather than retreating. They're regrouping. For another assault on this position, Kael said grimly. They want Elara. We need to understand why. He turned to Mira. You're the scholar. What could cause a human to manifest Lycan magic? Not Lycan magic, Mira corrected, studying Elara with new intensity. That was pure elemental power. Ice specifically, which is rarest of all. She began pacing. There are old stories, legends really, of Omega Primes, humans born with dormant supernatural gifts that only activate under extreme circumstances. Omega Prime. Elara's voice shook. What does that mean? It means, a young woman with red hair spoke up, you're potentially one of the most powerful beings in existence. Omega Primes can channel pure elemental force. They're immune to compulsion. And most importantly, she paused, her expression grave. They can balance a true mate's power, preventing the madness. Kael's jaw tightened. I'm not going mad. Not yet, the woman said gently. But your father did. And his father before him. The male line of blood moon alphas always burns too bright. They need their true mates to survive past 40, or the power consumes them. Everyone here knows this, Kael. It's why we've been desperate for you to find your mate. Elara looked at Kael, understanding dawning. Your vision didn't just show me beside you. It showed me saving you. He met her eyes. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel obligated. The mate bond should be choice, not necessity. A lovely sentiment, Mira interjected. But right now we have bigger problems. If the Shadow Pack knows Elara's an Omega Prime, they'll do anything to capture her. An Omega Prime can be forced to bond with any Alpha, and whoever she bonds with becomes essentially unstoppable. Horror crawled up Elara's spine. My father. He knew. That's why he hid me away. He was waiting for you to manifest, Kael finished, his voice cold with fury. Then he could sell you to the highest bidder. When I chose you, he panicked. The Shadow Pack must have offered him a fortune to deliver you. So what do? Elara demanded. Hide. Run. We fight, Kael said simply. And we complete the true mate bond. Once you're fully bonded to me, no one else can claim you. The connection becomes unbreakable. How long does that take? Usually weeks. The bond has to deepen naturally. Trust, intimacy, shared experience. Kael's expression was unreadable. But we don't have weeks. There is another way, the grizzled warrior said reluctantly. The old ritual. Skin to skin, heart to heart, witnessed by the pack. It can forge a full bond in hours instead of weeks. Absolutely not, Kael growled. That ritual is archaic, invasive. Necessary, Elara interrupted, surprising herself. Everyone turned to stare at her. She lifted her chin, channeling every ounce of courage she possessed. If it keeps me free and keeps you alive, we do it. I didn't come this far to be anyone's prisoner. Kael searched her face. Elara, you don't understand what you're agreeing to. The ritual is intense. It will bind us completely. You'll feel everything I feel. I'll feel everything you feel. There's no privacy, no secrets. Once it's done, we're tied together until death. Then we better make sure we actually like each other, Elara said, with a bravery she didn't entirely feel. How soon can we start? Tonight, Mira said. If we're going to do this, it must be under the full moon. Its power will strengthen the bond. She looked at Kael. Can Shadowmoor hold until sunset? It will have to. Kael's hand found Elara's, their fingers interlacing naturally. Spread the word. At moonrise we perform the bonding ritual. Until then no one enters or leaves. We defend what's ours. The advisors nodded and dispersed, leaving Elara alone with Kael and Mira. Are you sure about this? Kael asked quietly. Once it's done, there's no going back. Elara thought about her old life, invisible, unloved, slowly dying inside. Then she looked at this man who'd seen her when no one else had, who'd chosen her despite prophecy and politics. I'm sure, she said. But Kael, I need to learn to control this power. If I'm going to stand beside you, I can't be helpless. A fierce pride flickered in his eyes. Then we train. Mira, prepare the ritual chamber. Elara and I have work to do. For the next hours, Kael taught her. Not just about her powers, though she managed to summon ice twice more, coating practice dummies in frost, but about Shadowmoor, about pack politics, about the responsibilities she was inheriting. But more than that, they talked. Really talked. He told her about the weight of leadership, about losing his parents young, about the loneliness of being feared even by those he protected. She told him about her invisible years, about the books she'd hidden away to read in secret, about the garden she'd tended that no one else knew existed. And slowly, tentatively, the space between them began to feel less like that of strangers and more like possibility. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Kael took her hands. Last chance to run. I don't run anymore, Elara said. I choose. And I choose this. I choose you. Then tonight, Kael said softly, We become something neither of us has been before. Together. But as they turned toward the ritual chamber, a messenger burst in, face pale with terror. Your Majesty. The Shadow Pack, they've broken through the east gate. And they've brought something. Someone. The messenger swallowed hard. They've brought Seraphina. And she's claiming she's your true mate. The ritual chamber emptied as warriors rushed to defend the east gate. Kael's hand tightened on his sword hilt. His eyes blazing gold. That's impossible, Mira said flatly. I felt the mate bond activate between you and Elara. Seraphina is lying. Then why can I feel her? Kael's voice was strained, confused. There's something pulling at me like a hook in my chest. Not the same as Elara, but... Elara's stomach dropped. She'd felt that pull too. A sickening tug toward something wrong, something dark. It's not a mate bond. Something else. Magic. Blood magic, Mira breathed, her face going white. Oh ancestors. The Shadow Pack has bound Seraphina to Kael using a false bond. It's forbidden ancient magic that mimics the true mate connection. Can it override the real bond? Elara demanded. If completed before the true mate bond is sealed. It's designed to confuse, to make the Alpha unable to distinguish true from false. Mira grabbed Kael's arm. We have to finish the ritual now. Before they... An explosion rocked the castle. Stone dust rained from the ceiling. Screams and howls erupted from multiple directions. They're inside, Kael said. Multiple breach points. This is coordinated. He turned to Elara, conflict warring in his expression. I have to defend my people. But if I leave you, I'm not helpless, Elara reminded him, ice already forming on her palms. Go. I'll be right behind you. No. You stay in the chamber with Mira. It's warded, they can't. Another explosion closer this time. The door to the ritual chamber shuddered. Kael! A warrior skidded into the corridor, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. The Shadow Pack Alpha. Marcus, he's calling for you. He says if you don't come, he'll start killing hostages. He has 20 of our people, including children. Kael's face became a mask of cold fury. Where? The Great Hall. Your Majesty, it's a trap. Obviously. Kael looked at Elara one last time. Whatever happens, complete the ritual at moonrise. Even if I'm not there, start it. Mira will guide you. The pack needs their Luna, needs you, even if... He didn't finish the sentence. Kael, wait. But he was already running, shifting mid-stride into his massive black wolf form, disappearing down the corridor with his warriors. Elara started after him, but Mira caught her arm. Well, he's right. You're what they really want. If you go out there, everything he's fighting for becomes meaningless. I can't just hide while people die for me. Then don't hide. Prepare. Mira pulled her back into the ritual chamber, slamming and warding the door. You have power, Elara. Raw, untrained power. We have maybe an hour before they break through these wards or force Kael to surrender. In that hour, I'm going to teach you everything I can. For the next 45 minutes, Mira pushed Elara harder than she'd ever been pushed. The ice that had come instinctively before, Elara learned to summon at will. She practiced shaping it. Walls, shields, spears of frost that could pierce stone. But more than that, Mira taught her about pack bonds, about the connection between Luna and pack, about how an Omega Prime's power didn't just flow from her but could flow through an entire network of people. You're not just binding yourself to Kael, Mira explained as Elara worked. You're binding yourself to Shadowmoor. Every Lycan here will be able to draw on your strength, and you on theirs. That's what makes an Omega Prime so dangerous, or so powerful, depending on who claims her. My father knew, Elara said, ice spiraling around her hands. All those years, he knew what I was, and he hid me away like a weapon to be sold. Yes. And your sister is now trying to steal what's rightfully yours. Rage flared in Elara's chest, and the ice responded, spreading across the floor in intricate patterns. She realized she could feel the castle around her. The stone, the water in the pipes, the cold night air pressing against the walls. Everything that held cold she could touch. Good, Mira said. Now hold that feeling. Because we're about to have company. The wards on the door shattered. 3 Lycans in hybrid form, half human, half wolf, crashed through. Behind them came Seraphina, dressed in a bloodied white gown that might have been meant as a mockery of wedding attire. Her beautiful face was alight with vicious triumph. "Hello, sister," Seraphina purred. "Did you really think you could take what's mine?" Elara stepped forward, ice dancing around her like living things. "Kael was never yours. Everything was supposed to be mine." Seraphina shrieked, her composure cracking. "The crown, the king, the power. You were supposed to be nothing. And now you've ruined it, ruined everything, but I'll fix it. I'll kill you and take my rightful place." "You're bound to him with false magic," Elara said, and she could see it now. Dark red threads connecting Seraphina to some distant point, pulsing with sick energy. "Whatever they promised you, it's a lie. The Shadow Pack is using you. I don't care." Seraphina lunged forward, but the Lycans moved first. Elara's ice met them like a crashing wave. The first attacker found himself encased to the waist. The second got a spear of ice through the shoulder. But the third was faster, stronger. He broke through her defenses and backhanded her across the chamber. Elara hit the wall hard, tasting blood. Her vision swam. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard Mira fighting, heard Seraphina's laughter, heard. Kael's roar shook the very foundations of the castle. The black wolf exploded into the chamber, a force of nature. He tore through the Lycans with brutal efficiency, but Elara could see he was wounded. Deep gashes across his side, a limp in his back leg. He'd come for her, hurt and outnumbered because she was his mate. Something crystallized in Elara's heart. Purpose. Power. She stood, wiping blood from her lip, and called the cold. Not just from her hands this time. From everywhere. The temperature in the chamber plummeted. Frost spread across every surface. The air itself began to freeze, creating a swirling vortex of ice and snow with Elara at its center. "Enough," she said, and her voice carried authority she'd never possessed before. "This ends now." The ice reached out like living tentacles, not to harm but to hold. It wrapped around the attacking Lycans, around Seraphina, immobilizing them. And those dark threads binding Seraphina to the false bond. Elara grabbed them with her power and pulled. Seraphina screamed as the magic tore free, snapping like rotten rope. She collapsed, gasping. The connection broken, Elara felt it clearly now. The true bond between her and Kael, silver and bright and absolutely right. Kael shifted back to human form, staring at her with wonder. "Elara." "The ritual," she said. "We do it now. We end this." But before they could move, a slow clap echoed from the doorway. A massive man entered, easily 7 feet tall, his eyes mercury silver, his presence radiating alpha dominance. "Marcus," Kael growled. "Kael," the Shadow Pack Alpha said pleasantly. "And the mysterious Omega Prime. I must say you exceeded expectations, little one. Killing you would be such a waste. So here's my offer. Come willingly, bond with me, and I'll let everyone in this castle live. Refuse, and I'll tear out the throat of every child here, starting with the youngest." "You're bluffing," Elara said. "If you kill them all, you'll have no leverage." "I don't need leverage. I have power." Marcus smiled, showing too many teeth. "And soon I'll have you. One way or another." Outside, the moon began to rise. And Elara realized they were out of time. "I'll go with you," Elara said clearly. "No." Kael lunged forward, but Marcus moved faster, and suddenly the Shadow Pack Alpha had a clawed hand around Kael's throat, lifting him off the ground. "Poor choice, my king," Marcus crooned. "But understandable. She is quite the prize." "I said I'd go," Elara repeated, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. "But not as your prisoner." As your destroyer. She released every ounce of power she'd been holding back. The ice exploded outward in a catastrophic wave. It caught Marcus, forcing him to drop Kael and dive aside. It filled the corridor, blocking reinforcements. And it spread throughout the castle like a living thing, following Elara's instincts to every Shadow Pack member who meant harm. Elara could feel them. Dozens of invaders scattered through Shadowmoor. She touched each one with her power, not killing but immobilizing, trapping them in ice that would hold until she chose to release it. It should have been impossible. It should have killed her to channel that much power. But the true mate bond hummed between her and Kael, and through him she felt the entire pack. Hundreds of Lycans lending her their strength without even knowing it. This was what an Omega Prime could do. This was why they were feared. When the ice finally settled, Marcus was on his knees, frost coating his skin, his movements sluggish. Seraphina and her Lycan guards were frozen solid. Throughout the castle, Shadow Pack warriors found themselves imprisoned in crystalline cages. Elara stood at the center of it all, breathing hard, her hands glowing with residual power. Impossible, Marcus gasped. You're untrained. You shouldn't be able to. I'm done with people telling me what I can't do, Elara said. She walked to where Kael was pulling himself up and took his hand. The moment they touched, the bond flared bright enough to light the chamber. I'm done being underestimated. And I'm done letting anyone threaten my pack. My pack. The words felt right. Kael stared at her with something like awe. You stopped an entire invasion. Alone. Not alone. Never alone. She looked at Mira, who was grinning despite her injuries. We finished the ritual. While the moon is full and my power is peaked. We seal this bond and make sure no one can ever challenge it again. Mira nodded. The chamber is prepared. The pack can witness remotely. They'll feel the bond complete through the network. Wait, Marcus growled, still fighting against the ice. You don't understand what you're doing. An Omega Prime bonded to a Blood Moon Alpha. The power will be too much. You'll burn yourselves out within a year. Both of you will go mad. He's not wrong, Mira said quietly. The historical records suggest. I don't care about historical records, Elara interrupted. I care about now. About choosing my own fate for once in my life. About standing with someone who chose me when I was nothing. He turned to Kael. Whatever comes, we face it together. That's what true mates do, right? Kael's expression softened. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away a streak of blood on her cheek. Together, he agreed. Even if it burns us. Even if it's only for a year. Choose you, Elara. I'll choose you until my last breath. Then let's make it official, she said. The ritual chamber's ceiling had been opened to the full moon. Silver light poured down, illuminating the ancient circle carved into the stone floor. Mira guided them to the center, then stepped back. The ritual requires honesty, she explained. Vulnerability. You must share your deepest fear, your greatest hope, and your true name. The name of your soul, not the one you were given. The moon will witness. The pack will witness through their bonds. And the magic will seal what already exists between you. Kael and Elara faced each other, hands clasped, standing in moonlight that seemed almost liquid. I'll go first, Kael said. My deepest fear, that I'll become like my father. That the power will consume me and I'll hurt everyone I'm sworn to protect. My greatest hope, that with you beside me, I'll find the strength to be better. To be worthy of the trust my pack places in me. He paused, taking a breath. My true name, Kael Silver Moon Blood Moon, named for the duality I carry, the silver of healing and the blood of war. I am both destroyer and protector. I am your mate. The moonlight intensified, wrapping around him like silk. Now it was Elara's turn. She thought about the girl she'd been just days ago, invisible, insignificant, slowly suffocating. And she thought about who she was becoming. My deepest fear, she began, is that I'm still that invisible girl. That this power, this purpose, will be taken away, and I'll go back to being nothing. My greatest hope. That I'm finally enough. That I can protect the people who need me and become the Luna this pack deserves. She met Kael's golden eyes. My true name. Elara Frostborn Thornwood, named for the ice I carry and the thorns that protected me when nothing else would. I am hidden strength made manifest. I am your mate. The moonlight exploded around them, bright enough to blind. Elara felt the bond between them snap into place with almost physical force. No longer a fragile thread but a steel cable, unbreakable and eternal. She gasped as Kael's emotions flooded through her. His fierce protectiveness, his bone-deep loneliness finally eased. His love. Yes, already love, born from recognition and choice and destiny intertwined. And he felt hers. Her determination, her fear transformed into courage, her hesitant hope growing into certainty. They were separate people still, but bound in a way that transcended simple romance. They were partners, warriors, leaders. They were complete. When the light faded, Elara realized she could feel the entire pack through their bond. Hundreds of presences, some curious, some jubilant, all acknowledging her as their Luna. The weight of it should have been crushing, but instead, it felt like finding family after a lifetime alone. It's done, Mira said, tears streaming down her face. The true mate bond is sealed. You're officially Luna of Shadowmoor. Elara looked at Marcus, still imprisoned in ice. You lost. Your invasion failed. What happens now is up to you. Surrender and you'll be tried fairly. Resist and you'll what? Kill me. Marcus laughed bitterly. You're too soft. That's your weakness, little Luna. You still think like a human with human morality. But war is coming whether you want it or not. The Shadow Pack is just the beginning. There are forces moving that will make tonight's attack look like a minor skirmish. Then we'll face them, Kael said, moving to stand beside Elara. Together. As we were always meant to. Marcus's expression turned calculating. The false bond one placed on your sister. It still exists, you know. Not to you anymore, but she's bound to shadow magic now. It will corrupt her, slowly eat away at her mind. Unless you help her, she'll become a monster. Elara looked at Seraphina, still frozen, and felt pity. Her sister had been a victim too, in her own way. Trapped by their father's ambition, taught that beauty was her only value. We'll save her, Elara decided. If she'll let us. Your mercy will be your downfall, Marcus predicted. Maybe, Elara said. Or maybe it's what makes us stronger than you. Guess we'll find out. 3 months had passed since the night of the bonding ritual. Shadowmoor had been rebuilt, its walls reinforced, its people united under the new Luna who'd proven herself in fire and ice. The Shadow Pack survivors who chose surrender had been integrated slowly, carefully, under watchful eyes. Those who refused were held in cells designed to hold Lycans, uncomfortable but humane. Marcus had been tried and sentenced to life imprisonment. Before he was locked away, he'd given Elara one last piece of advice. The greatest threats don't announce themselves with invasions. They whisper in the dark. Watch your allies, Luna. Not all betrayal comes from enemies. Seraphina's fate had been more complicated. The shadow magic Marcus had bound to her was indeed corrupting her, but Elara had worked tirelessly with Mira to find a cure. Turned out that Omega Prime power could heal as well as harm. Slowly, painfully, Elara was drawing the darkness from her sister. The process had forced them to actually talk, really talk, for the first time in their lives. I hated you, Seraphina admitted one day, as Elara channeled healing frost through the shadow-tainted veins. Not because you were ugly or worthless like Father said. 'Cause you were free. You had no expectations to live up to, no constant pressure to be perfect. I envied that freedom even as I mocked you for it. You weren't free either, Elara said quietly. You were just trapped in a different cage. The healing sessions became a form of reconciliation. They'd never be close, too much pain, too much history, but they were learning to be sisters. Real ones. Lord Aldrich had fled when the invasion failed. Rumor placed him in the far north, trying to broker new alliances, still scheming. Kael had declared him an enemy of Shadowmoor. If he returned, he'd face trial for treason. Elara felt surprisingly little about her father's fate. He'd never been a parent in any real sense. Shadowmoor was her family now. On the first day of the 4th month, Elara stood on the balcony of her and Kael's chambers. Their chambers because they truly shared everything now, watching the sun rise over the valley. The bond between them had deepened daily, and sometimes she couldn't tell where her emotions ended and his began. But instead of feeling trapped by it, she felt liberated. For the first time in her life, someone understood her completely. Kael emerged from inside, wrapping his arms around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind." She leaned back into his warmth. Marcus's warning keeps echoing. About threats that whisper rather than roar. "I know. I've been thinking about it too." Kael turned her to face him. "There are rumors from the Eastern Territories. Disappearances. Entire villages going silent. No Shadow Pack activity. Nothing we can trace. Something else then. Something new. Or something old, awakening." He tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. "But whatever it is, we'll face it. We've built something strong here, Elara. Pack united by choice rather than fear. That's worth fighting for." "It is," she agreed. "I just worry sometimes. About the prophecy Marcus mentioned. About us burning out." "We're not our parents," Kael said firmly. "We make our own fate. And if loving you means burning bright rather than living long in shadow, I'll take the fire every time." Elara kissed him, pouring everything she felt through the bond. Love, gratitude, hope, determination. When they broke apart, she was smiling. "You know what I realized," she said. "I spent 20 years being invisible, thinking I was nothing. But I wasn't nothing. I was just waiting, preparing, becoming exactly who I needed to be for this moment, this place, these people." "Hidden strength," Kael murmured, echoing her true name. "Ready to be revealed at the perfect time." A knock interrupted them. Mira entered with an apologetic expression and a sealed letter. "Sorry to intrude, but this just arrived. It's marked urgent." Kael broke the seal, his eyes scanning quickly. His expression darkened. "It's from the Council of Alphas. They're calling a gathering, all pack leaders from across the territories. They want to meet you, Elara, to assess whether an Omega Prime Luna is a threat to pack stability." "A threat? I saved Shadowmoor." "They're afraid," Mira explained. "The last known Omega Prime lived 300 years ago. She ended up starting a war that killed thousands. They want to ensure history doesn't repeat." Elara felt anger flare, then forced it down. Fear made people irrational. She'd learned that watching her father. "When is this gathering?" 2 weeks. At the gathering grounds, neutral territory. Kael folded the letter, his jaw tight. "I can refuse. Tell them to." "No," Elara interrupted. "We go. We show them that an Omega Prime isn't something to fear. We show them what Shadowmoor has become, proof that power guided by compassion is stronger than power ruled by fear." Kael studied her, then smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his features. "You sound like a queen." "I sound like your Luna," she corrected. "Our Luna." The next 2 weeks passed in preparation. Elara trained harder than ever, not just in combat but in diplomacy, politics, pack law. She learned the names and histories of every major alpha, every alliance and grudge that shaped their world. She also spent time with the people of Shadowmoor, helping in the kitchens, visiting the schools, walking through the markets. Aluna wasn't just a warrior or a political figurehead. She was the heart of the pack, the one who saw and valued every member. The day before they were to leave for the gathering, a messenger arrived from an unexpected source. Seraphina, who'd been recovering in the healing wing. Elara found her sister sitting up in bed, looking more like herself than she had in months. The shadow corruption had faded, leaving her weak but clear-eyed. I wanted to say goodbye, Seraphina said. And, thank you. For not giving up on me when you had every reason to. You're my sister, Elara said simply. That means something, even when it's complicated. I'm leaving Shadowmoor once I'm strong enough. Going to the southern coast. Starting over where no one knows my name. Seraphina managed a small smile. Maybe I'll find out who I am when I'm not trying to be father's perfect weapon. I hope you find peace, Elara said and meant it. Elara! Seraphina called as Elara turned to leave. You were right that day at the border. You were always meant for this. And I'm sorry I couldn't see it sooner. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. But it was a beginning. The journey to the gathering grounds took 3 days. Kael led a delegation of 20 warriors, including Mira and several of Shadowmoor's most respected pack members. They traveled through territories Elara had never seen. Forests that seemed to breathe with ancient magic, mountains that scraped the sky, rivers that sang with power. She understood, seeing it all, why the Lycans fought so hard to protect these lands. This was worth defending. The gathering grounds were a massive clearing surrounded by standing stones, each carved with the sigil of a major pack. Already, dozens of alphas had arrived with their retinues. The air crackled with dominance displays and barely suppressed aggression. When Kael and Elara entered, every eye turned to them. The combined weight of so many alpha gazes would have crushed a normal human. But Elara wasn't normal anymore. She met their stares calmly, ice dancing subtly around her fingertips as a reminder of what she was. An ancient alpha stepped forward, gray-furred even in human form. His eyes milky with age but sharp with intelligence. Kael Blood Moon. And the Omega Prime who has bound herself to your bloodline. We have questions. Ask them, Elara said before Kael could respond. I have nothing to hide. For hours they questioned her. About her powers, her intentions, her understanding of pack law and Lycan politics. Some questions were hostile, others merely curious. Through it all, Elara answered honestly, neither apologizing for what she was nor boasting about it. Finally, the ancient alpha raised a hand for silence. Luna Elara, you claim your power is meant to protect, not conquer. Will you prove this? How? Elara asked. Demonstrate your strength. Show us what an Omega Prime can do. If you are as powerful as rumor suggests, we must know whether to count you as ally or threat. Elara looked at Kael through their bond. He nodded, trusting her. She stepped into the center of the clearing, closed her eyes and reached for her power, not with aggression but with purpose. Temperature dropped. Frost spread across the ground in beautiful, intricate patterns. Then, with careful precision, Elara raised her hands. Ice formed above the clearing, not weapons but art. She sculpted it into figures. Lycans in human and wolf form, standing together. Humans and Lycans shaking hands. Children playing in safety. A world not of domination but of cooperation. It was her vision for the future, made manifest in frozen beauty. When she lowered her hands, the ice remained, suspended by threads of her power, glittering in the afternoon sun like captured stars. This is what I want, Elara said into the awed silence. Not war. Not conquest. A world where no one has to be invisible. Where strength protects instead of threatens. Where different kinds of people can stand together without fear. She turned slowly, meeting as many eyes as she could. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to consider that maybe, just maybe, an Omega Prime's power is exactly what we need to build something better. The ancient alpha stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he knelt. Luna Elara, Frostborn of Shadowmoor, you have proven your heart. I name you ally and friend to the Silver Creek Pack. One by one other alphas followed. Not all. Some still looked suspicious, hostile, but more than half knelt in recognition. It wasn't total victory, but it was enough. It was a beginning. That night, as they prepared to return to Shadowmoor, Kael pulled Elara close under a sky full of stars. You were magnificent today. You changed minds that I thought would never change. We changed them, Elara corrected. I couldn't have done any of it without you. Without our bond. Without Shadowmoor believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. So what now, my Luna? What's next for the girl who was supposed to be nothing? Elara smiled, feeling the weight of her pack through the bond, feeling Kael's love warming her from the inside, feeling more herself than she'd ever been. Now, we go home. We build. We protect. We prove that choosing strength doesn't mean choosing cruelty. And if threats come, and they will, we face them together. Together, Kael agreed, kissing her forehead. Always together. In the distance, a wolf howled, a sound of pack and family and belonging. Elara howled back, her human voice carrying just as far, just as strong. She'd been offered as tribute, the rejected sister no one saw. But she'd become something far greater. A Luna who chose her own destiny, a queen who ruled with both power and compassion, a woman who transformed from invisible to essential. And her story, their story, was just beginning. The stars wheeled overhead, bearing witness to the Luna who'd been hidden in plain sight until the moment she chose to shine. And shine she would, for all the years to come, bright as ice in sunlight, strong as the pack bond that tied her to everything she'd chosen to protect. This was her purpose. This was her home. This was finally her life. And it was glorious.